So guys, welcome back to our series on the wallet application. Coding with Nnamdi here once again, and I'm your humble self, Nnamdi. To go ahead, we just need to understand the basics of what we're actually doing here so that we don't get carried away with just building and not really understanding what we're trying to do. So we're trying to create wallet instances that would represent the various currencies of our choice, which is Naira, USD, and the Australian dollar. And we want to essentially integrate it with gateways that would manage that for us. Right now, what we have done so far is just to create the integration with Paystack using the package called developed by Unicoder or Unicode developer for the Laravel payment sequence, which we showed in our previous video, and we were able to actually test that we integrated correctly with that application to the endpoint, meaning the endpoint provided by Paystack, and we saw that the monies were in our account. So just to understand that, so our core app essentially will be managing, if you recall, there's a wallet that has an instance of NGN and transactions as well. So we want to be able to manage the transactions that we see in a particular wallet. So to do that, and also we want to ensure that there's end-to-end encryption, making sure that we don't get a false webhook that comes into our site when we post a request that says, or maybe we can have fictitious users. Now that you understand this approach, can create an external server that sends something to our application saying, "Oh, verify this 200,000 naira or 200,000," So we want to ensure that it's end-to-end encryption as well. But what we'll do in this video is we would ensure that we create the end-to-end encryption for this callback, and also we would create the instance for the Naira wallet. We'll create a wallet and we'll create a transaction as well. So to do that, the first thing we will do is to create the database for the wallet. We could call it wallet balance, whatever you want to call it, but let's just go ahead so you see what I'm saying proper. So to do this, what I will do is I will create a model. So PHP artisan and the migration as well. PHP artisan make model. We'll call it wallet balance, and this m-m for migration. Okay, that has created that model for us. So what we will do now is to go into the migration first of all. Now migration, you find it under database. Yes, that's it. And you create a migration for that. Essentially, that's what you use to create. Let's define a foreign key. That's what you use to create database. Database table. Let's define a foreign key. That foreign key essentially, because how do we access the wallet? How does the user? How do we know which user has what wallet? So we have to somehow link the wallet balance. Sorry, I created something wrong. Let's just we will let's call it let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Sorry guys, I just saw that it was double L, so I'll just delete this. And in the model section, where is this? I'll delete that so that it doesn't interfere. Okay, so these are things you need to watch out for when creating your application. All right, so let's define a foreign key. Foreign key. That foreign key would be linked to the user's table. So yep, table foreign ID. I think that's it. Let's call that foreign ID customer ID, and let's constrain that ID to the users table. Users. Let us ensure that if we update that user on updates, I think it's this updates. Yep, that's it. Let's cascade the effect. Cascade the effect of that, and similar to on delete. So if you delete it, on delete, let's cascade the effect so that it's deleted on this table as well. Okay. Yep. All right. So let's also create a different field. Let's call it let it be a string. Currency. And let's create another table field and call it let's be a decimal. It's going to hold the monies essentially. Call it amount. All this you will find in the documentation. How to create this, you will find in documentation of Laravel as much as possible. I'm trying to make this, as easy as possible, meaning as quickly as possible. So let's now migrate our table. Let's see what happens. I think we did that at some point here. Good. So that has been migrated. Let's check it out. Yep. So yep, that's it. So we have that. Yep, it's linked to this. Essentially is linked to the users table. Okay, without further ado, let's go on and continue building. So now that we've built this, let us also build another one, which is the transactions table, the wallet transactions table. So we essentially built the wallet. So let's say wallet transaction. Let's call that. Yep. I think that's correct. That's correct spelling. Wallet transaction. Yep. All right. So in the wallet transactions table, what schema do we have here? So what I will do is, so that I don't retype this, I'll just copy this guy, because I'll actually need, as a matter of fact, I would also need this too. Yep. So what I'll do is I'll copy this. I'll go into this guy and I'll paste him here. But at the same time, I would also need a reference number, so we can also reference some kind of reference on the wallet transaction, so you can know what is. Let's put a status as well. Let's put a status. Let's create a status. Okay, the amount, and let's also put a timestamp. Let's call it let's put another timestamp. Let's call it let's call it pay that. All right, cool. And let's migrate again. Okay, that's migrated. Let's confirm that we have wallet transactions. Wallet transactions is there. Cool. Cool. See how easy it is. So let's go on. Let's now go to the model. Let's go to the model. In that model, for the balance, let's create a fillable. Protected. Let's make it protected. Fillable. An array. That array would have some content in it. Okay, so essentially what will happen here is it will it's a protective mechanism for Laravel to ensure that we don't get any injections that are not required, you know. So I think this is wallet balance. So in wallet balance, what did we have here? We had customer ID, currency, and amount. Okay, so I had that already written somewhere. Okay, so let's also put a method here that will allow us know. Well, you see how it comes in handy here. This method essentially would link this wallet balance to a particular customer. I just like putting that essentially so that we know who's who. And say return this for this method. This model belongs to users class, which will reference user table. What column are we talking about? So it says what's the foreign key? The foreign key is customer ID. And what's the owner key? So the owner key is ID. All right, so it's sorted. Okay, similar to for the transactions table. So for the transactions, wallet transactions table, I already had that written somewhere. Okay, and similar to which user has a transaction. Let's just write a method for that. Okay, so similar to what we did before. So that is sorted out, in my opinion. I think we've been able to, prefill the models. Okay. Okay, so just trying to close this to make this, usable. All right, so right now we understand now from what we've done that we have essentially created the based on what we've done, we've created the wallet, and that wallet with that wallet balance with essentially the wallet transactions and the wallet balance. So the wallet balance is where we would know how much a particular user has in what particular instance. So the instance essentially is the currency instance, whether it's NGN, USD, AUD, and whatever you choose, and the amount, and the transactions for that particular user as well on that wallet. So now that we have that framework, let's go on to now create the end-to-end encryption. The end-to-end encryption, what I will do for that is I will what do I do for this end-to-end encryption? It's just to ensure that whatever is being sent from us, meaning by our application, is actually true and not something fictitious that we're getting from the callback. So what that really means is when we send the first request to Paystack, we want to ensure that what we're getting from Paystack is exactly what we sent. So to do that, what I will do is I'll create a custom class or a custom helper class that will essentially help us do what I'm saying. Okay, so sorry guys, speaking too much, but yeah, let's do that here. So let's create it here in this. Let's call it let's create a folder and call it services. And in that services, let's create a class, call it custom helpers, just in case you build, just to make sure that the application is of course following the PEST principle, and it's just readable. As usual with your normal PHP, you just create a PHP, just say namespace. That's how Laravel is able to reference it. App, where is that application located? It's located in HTTP and where is that HTTP located? It's located in services. Okay. And the class name, let's just give it the same name as the folder, or as the name of the PHP file. So custom helpers. And what are we doing here? So I'm just going to generate a code, a random code. Yeah, just a public function. I say generates code, and I'll just say you put a limit for what the code is that you are trying to generate, and we'll say we'll just instantiate the code to be an empty string first of all, and we'll just use a for loop to okay, so for I equals to 0 and that where I is less than limits, and that I treat it, say add +1 to that I plus plus. So what do we do inside there? We essentially, this is just my custom way of generating a random use the method random PHP random function between 0 and 9, and it's sorry, and then you just return the code that you generated, so that when we use that function, when we refer to that function, we always get a random number based on the limit we set. Okay, so it just helps us have an idea of what we're trying to do. So what we'll do, if you recall, when we were sending the request, we just sent something to Paystack. So what we will do in this regard now is, before we send this request, we'll send it as a metadata. Essentially, we would encrypt our value and send as a metadata. So what we'll do now is let's now write the encryption here. So let's say end-to-end security implementation. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just refer to that random helper class we created. We just use this app. The custom class is this custom helper class, and then we refer to that method, which was generate code. was generate code. That was it. And the limit was saying 4. And let me see that. Yes, I copied that. Okay, so good. So now we have a random. Yep. Let's now say, let's call it eSecure. eSecure, which is the end-to-end encryption. eSecure. Just to ensure that what we're getting is essentially what it is. Then let's now encrypt it to the user's ID. So it's a particular user. And let's say dot random and the time, Unix time. Let's just use this method, PHP method, and save. Okay, so what's happening now is we've essentially created our secure method or our secure key. Let's now save that to the cache using the Laravel cache function. Let's put it in. Let's call it eSecure as the name of the. Sorry, guys. Let's call it eSecure as the tag of the class, which is essentially the name of the class of the cache. Sorry. And where's the cache? Secure. That's it. How long do we want it to last for from now? Plus 15 minutes. Let's say plus 15 minutes. So if add minutes, minutes 15. Okay. And then we save that. Okay, so now we've cached it so that we have it in the application, so that if someone tries to we always have that. Anyway, the point is we already always have that security key that we made cached now. So let's now say end to end is now, and we now let's now encrypt that end-to-end security so that if somebody has access to, somehow gets access to it, they still can't make any sense of it. Encrypt. Let's encrypt that, and we call it. That's it. All right. So that's it. It's now secured. So let's now send. Yep. Let's now send the metadata requests. Metadata. Yep. And let's make it an array. That array will essentially have the user. That's the user. We use the authentication. User. The end-to-end encryption is secure. I'll call it end-to-end. And transaction type. If you recall, the transaction type was put in the form when we're submitting. That was something that was a hidden field. It's just to make your app, a bit more secure. Type. I'm just call this request. Sorry guys. Yeah, whichever it was. Requests. Transaction type. So I think that's what it was. Yep. Okay. So good. So when we are essentially getting the package from the webhook, we would, so now that we've done that, we've been able to create the fields on database. Let's now go back to the callback function. So in the callback function, let's go back to that package. how to actually use that callback function. So it says here in that callback function, to use that function, you need to yes, you need to use this. Okay, so what we will do now is, let's go back to our application. Yeah, so in the callback function, what we will do here is we'll yep, so let's get payment details. Payment details equals to paystack, yep, from Unicode coder side, and get payments data. Yep, that's what he says we should use. Get payment data. What we will then do now, if you recall, we created an end-to-end encryption. So just say end-to-end, 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 and we'll just say equals to yes, so we'll get the payments details data. I call it was saved as metadata, and it was saved as eSecure. That's, you know, yeah. So that's that for that. Okay, so yep, that's that for that. Let me just redid this. Okay, so yeah, so what I've said here is, if it's actually set, if it's set using the PHP method, if you set this, that's if there's actually something inside this, populate it with that. Otherwise, say not verified. Okay, so what we'll then do is yep, let's go on. Let's use the try catch, and let's catch the error if there is any error. Let's use the throwable. Just call this th, sorry. And so what we then do is let's get this end to end, and let us decrypt it. So we'll get what it, so you remember it was encrypted already. What's being sent to Paystack is encrypted. So if anybody even hacks into our Paystack server, they will see an encrypted key, but they won't know what to do with it. But it's only the application that can actually decrypt it. So that encrypted key is there. So if we don't have that encrypted key, let's return redirect. Different approaches, guys. Let's go back, because we don't know where you're coming from. Let's go back with flag error, and th get message. That's it. Okay. All right. So, yep. If this is false, yep, it goes back saying error. However, if it's not false, excuse me. If okay, let's call it eSecure. Let's cache. Let's go to the card and get that Okay. So essentially what we will do is yeah, what I've just done here is, yep, if the end-to-end is not equal to the secure has not been verified, so these are just two layers of security essentially. So now that we've done that, my assumption is that once it's past this stage, it's secured, and then we can then update our wallet balance. So what we'll do in that regard is to say customer wallet is equals to wallet balance. We are calling in that model where we just use that customer ID. And what does that customer ID say it is? So let's now go into the payment details. Payment details, data, metadata. It's just to ensure again that the user is who he says he is, you know, because this is a financial application, so you don't want a situation where you open it up for, you know, hackers. It's just to make things very difficult for hackers. Currency, and you also want to ensure that the currency is right. Again, let's just copy this. Okay, and just say currency. Okay, currency. And yes, let's get the first, because hopefully there shouldn't be any other item like that. So you get use the first expression. Yep. What happens if that user doesn't exist or doesn't have a wallet? So let's say if there's no customer wallet like that, then we'll create, of course there's a better way to achieve any of this. We'll just create a new wallet balance end. Okay, and just call it customer wallet, customer ID. You know, we use this customer ID that we essentially go from here. Let's go and use this customer ID. What else do we say we want? And we also want currency as well. Let's just copy this. Let's just do this. Currency. Trying as much as possible to make this really quick. Okay, and just delete these guys. Okay, so that's that. And let's give an amount of let's make it 0. Recall that it's decimals that we're accepting, and let's save it. Save. And okay, so essentially what he's saying here is if we don't find anything like that, we create one with 0. But I think, yes, anyways, it just says that. So then I've been told not to use too many try and catches. Apologies, guys. I just like try and catches. I like the way it gets me my errors back. So I'll just copy this try and catch again, but in the try section I would essentially update the wallet. Okay, so here what we'll do now is we'll say new balance is equals to, let's make it a float value, and let's call it customer wallet. Let's now get the amount that was there. The amount that was there, and let us add it to another float value. Plus, this is where you do your, this is essentially the whole business logic now. So you say float values, float var, and that float var, let's say payment details. Let's call it let's get the data, and what is it? Amount, all that divided by 100 to convert it back to Naira from Kobo. So 100 Kobo equals to 1 Naira. Okay, so the new customer wallet now will be updated. Update, call it let's just say the amount, and we say the new balance. Yeah, the new balance is now the new amount. Yep, and that. Okay, let's just call this, let's just move that down. Fund wallet, and beneath this, let's just say convert the ISO to, yeah, let's just convert the ISO, the ISO 85 or 86, I think it's 8601, to a date time object. And that's because, if you recall, we saved in the daytime. What we're getting from Paystack is essentially an ISO compliance date time. So just say pay that, I think that's it, pay that is equals to equals to new date time. Yes, date time, payment details, data, yep, pay that. Sorry guys, this video is getting too long, but let's try as much as possible to, finish up on this and test and see what happens. Okay, so what I have done now is yes, okay, I've just post written that to a format to format the dates, convert the F4 to MySQL dates time, and what we'll then do is let's now save the transaction on our database, or let's record the transaction. So what we'll do now is we'll say, so we funded the wallet, now let's record the transaction. So wallet transaction creates and okay, so what are we doing now? We are creating one for a particular customer ID. Recall that the customer ID is this. Recall that that's what's that. So currency as well. Just say currency currency. Reference. The reference, yep, we would use the reference provided by Paystack. Okay. Transaction type. Okay, transaction. I'm just looking at the database, sorry, to just see what to populate this thing to be. So it's transaction type. Type. Recall, we will get that from the meta that's the metadata that was saved. Okay. Okay, written. Okay, what do we call the other one? The other one was called status. We could just say success. We could just put success string. Let's call it success. What I'll do is I've actually written this somewhere else, so I'll just say comma this. So what I've done here is just the amount, made it a float value, divided by 100, paid out, which is this paid out here. And of course, if there's any error, it catches it. Otherwise, we essentially return to our home as successful. Okay, so let's do this now. Let's go back here. Let's fund our NGN wallet with 2,000 Naira. Click on that. This is success. Voila. Is bringing that error again. All right, what I'll do, guys, I think I have. Why are we having that error? Okay, maybe I didn't reload it. So let's reload. Let's why is this happening? I'm not sure. Let me figure it out. Let me see. Okay. We're still getting that error. All right, what I would do is I would go back into the codes and resolve it and show you what I did to resolve it. Thanks guys for watching, and